Welcome to the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your first choice for second round advice, with your hosts, Gabriel Miramontes and Jacob Bartley.
Pearl on 3rd and 7. Jefferson hauls it in. Would be Max Crosby. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast. Gabriel Miramontes, no Jacob Bartley today, unfortunately, but that's okay. I don't need him. We're just going to do a simple mock draft today. It is July 22nd, 2023. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe if you find anything helpful here today. If you don't find anything helpful at all, that's okay too, I guess. You know, it happens from time to time. What if I told you, hot take before we even start the podcast, what if I told you mock drafts are pointless? They're absolutely pointless, and they are not going to help you when it's time for the real thing. What's the real thing, you ask? It is your draft, your personal draft that you do with your league mates, whether local or competitive, whatever it may be. Those drafts that you do are nothing compared to the mock drafts that you will do endlessly between now and, I don't know, say your draft time. Now, is that a hot take? I don't know. Some people say that there are benefits to mock drafts. Certainly, there are. I don't deny that. What are some of the benefits of mock drafts? Let's see. For starters, for me personally, one of the biggest benefits that I get from doing mock drafts are values, right? I want to see where the values lie with current players. Where can I reach? Where can I not reach? Who's a good value if they slip too far? Those are the things that I really look for. But you don't know what happens until you get to your real draft. Your local drafts, people are going to reach. They're going to take guys like, I don't know, if you're a Green Bay Packers fan and you play fantasy football, somebody's really going to reach for like Jordan Love, who's going in like the 10th or 11th round this year, right? They might take him in the 8th. And you're like, oh, I wanted him because I'm a Packers fan. You guys already know this. So when you do mock drafts and you sit afterwards, you sit there and you look at your team and you're like, wow, this went really well. Like, I would totally slay with this team. And then you get to your draft, and after the second round, you're already telling yourself, well, this isn't how I thought it was going to go, because you don't know how it's going to go. So in reality, what you have to do preparing for your drafts is you have to go in with your own kind of rankings, essentially. Now, we have our own rankings, and I know plenty of outlets have their own rankings, but you need to go in with your own mindset and your own knowledge that prepares you. If X, Y, and Z are taken, am I still reaching for this next RB? Because I may need an RB in this situation. Maybe I haven't taken one in a few rounds and I need one now. But value doesn't always call for that. And today we're going to play with value alone. Now, we're doing this draft on Sleeper. It's a 12-team, 12-round draft. Nothing spectacular here. I believe it's a QB. I got it switched up here. It's a 1 QB, 2 RB, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. So nothing out of the ordinary. But what we're really going to focus on today is kind of my thought process, my strategies. And again, is it all pointless? I don't necessarily know. I want to say it's not. Mock drafts are not pointless, but I definitely think they're overhyped. So let's go ahead and get started today. Again, we're using Sleeper. I don't believe I claimed a draft spot yet. I didn't want to invite anybody today because no one ever comes, but that's not true, kind of. But I did draft from the 10 spot. So I am currently drafting from the 10 spot. I can't really see it on my screen, but we'll get to it eventually. And then let's see here. Okay, there we go. Now we have drafting from the 10 spot. We're just going to go ahead and get started. Again, what are some other things that they don't count for? Probably the holdout that Barkley is ensuing. We see right now they have him ranked as their 10th RB. It's very likely that Barkley is going to sit out for the first few games of the season. If he doesn't, that's a surprise to me, but we'll have to wait and see, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump right in, and we are going to start this clock. And again, we're doing it with auto draft CPU. So there you go. Typical draft fashion, Justin Jefferson, first player off the board. Boy, have the times changed, right? Gone are the days of CMC, Barkley, Eckler going 1, 2, 3. Wide receivers going in the first round, going in the top 3. Jefferson and Chase. Kupp also goes in the top 6, followed by Kelsey, number 7, Hill, and Diggs. So now we're here at the 10 spot, 5 minutes on the clock. I'm not going to take 5 minutes of your time today, but let's look at some of the players that are available. We can look here specifically at rankings. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derrick Henry, Garrett Wilson, Josh Jacobs. We're looking at this from a redraft perspective, okay? Let's look at some of the QBs here. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Is this a good time to take Patrick Mahomes? I would not take Patrick Mahomes here. Keep on looking. He is kind of in that threshold. I want to stick with wide receivers here. I really do. I think there's going to be another run of them here very soon. Saquon Barkley, obviously, we can't factor that in right now. Jonathan Taylor, what's that line going to look like with two supreme rushing options behind them in Indianapolis? Personally, I'm not as high on CeeDee Lamb as most are. Just not something I'm a fan of, especially now that they've lost Kellen Moore. AJ Brown sitting here. He feels like a very tantalizing option to me. Definitely a top 10 wide receiver, definitely a top 7 wide receiver. I'm going to go AJ Brown to start my draft here. So obviously Patrick Mahomes, CeeDee Lamb, Barkley, Adams go after that. Now we're kind of back. Jonathan Taylor's still there. Nick Chubb is still there. I already kind of like where this is headed. I guess in this scenario, there's a couple of things I have to think about. And I'm getting texts here. Oh my goodness, it's my turn to pick. I'm doing my own mock draft on my own phone. Anyways, let's see here. There we go. So there's a couple of things that I want to acknowledge here. All right. We have AJ Brown, Patrick Mahomes, first QB off the board. Would it be reasonable to say that if I don't believe in Jonathan Taylor, I don't really like Nick Chubb, can I double up on wide receivers? I think it's a little too early. I just don't think at the 10 spot, Garrett Wilson is a guy that I want to reach for in this situation. There's that absolute possibility where Aaron Rodgers, just for some reason, like Garrett Wilson is a really like crazy route runner. And what happens if in week 1, Garrett Wilson runs this really crazy route and then he's just on Aaron Rodgers like X list for the remainder of the season, the remainder of the game, or, whatever. I think of those extremes. I want to look for solid options here. Jalen Waddle would be considered a reach, but I really am thinking about that option right now, doubling up on my wide receivers here. And then there's Jonathan Taylor. I come back to it, okay? Obviously coming off the injury last year, they have Anthony Richardson. He's probably not going to start the year. So then you got to think about that with Minshew. There's just a lot of unknowns there. Nick Chubb, a lot of unknowns. We all anticipate that Deshaun Watson is going to perform better than he did last year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a solid pick. He's a number 1 on his team, whereas Jalen Waddle's a number 2 on his team. I could do that. But Amon-Ra, although he's a great player, he doesn't really excite me for fantasy. And maybe that's what I need. Where AJ Brown kind of excites me, maybe I need that number 1 who is going to be the go-to on his team. And I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go Amon-Ra St. Brown here. Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb go after that. Jalen Hurts, the second QB off the board. Garrett Wilson, Henry, Mark Andrews, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Jalen Waddle, Stevenson. A lot of players have gone. But now, as I move in here to my third pick, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Should I double up on the Brown? Should I just find a Brown randomly somewhere? Who's the next Brown? Let's just see who it would be. Marquise Brown. Let's do it. Just kidding. We're not going to do that today. But I do see Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. So we've gone off the board here. Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson obviously have that rushing upside. Josh Allen is still there, and this is a prime spot where I would consider drafting him. Joe Burrow, not necessarily. Don't get me wrong, he's a great fantasy player, but not something I really want at this juncture in the draft. Jahmyr Gibbs, rookie running back for the Detroit Lions. I like him, but when you're doing redraft leagues, one of my philosophies is like, I want to go with what I know. Like, I want to go with the proven commodity. This isn't a startup dynasty draft. This isn't, a rookie draft. It's a plain shoot 'em up redraft league, and I want to go with sure things. I'm locking down my QB early. I'm reaching. I wouldn't say I'm reaching. According to the ADP here, it's right on par. I'm going with Josh Allen. Now I have AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Josh Allen rounding out my top 3 picks, my first 3 picks. And I finds me again on the turn here at number 10. Keenan Allen, Kenneth Walker, Aaron Jones, Jahmyr Gibbs. They all went before me. Now I'm at the turn. And it gets a little interesting. At this point, I can completely rule out tight ends for the foreseeable future. Deebo Samuel's there. Says he's playing. He's looking better, I guess you could say. I don't know the lingo that these guys use, but apparently he's been working out a lot. Okay, so we can say whatever. Doesn't matter. Not a guy that I'm considering at this point. Then we have Joe Mixon. Contract restructured. He's still going to be there in Cincinnati for another year. He, in most facets of the game, regressed last year. Of course, people remember that 4-touchdown game. But there were a lot of things that he started to show, lack thereof production. But he's a reliable running back 1. I don't think so. He's more like a solid running back 2. But because I've already kind of solidified my starting wide receivers, I've solidified my QB, can I start to look for that flex play? Can I start to look for that running back? And when I look at the flex plays here, it's Calvin Ridley, question mark to me. Amari Cooper, question mark to me. Don't need Justin Fields. We can keep scrolling down the list here. George Kittle, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Herbert, Terry McLaurin, J.K. Dobbins. These guys come with a lot of question marks regarding QB play for Terry McLaurin. J.K. Dobbins placed on the PUP recently. Dameon Pierce playing with a rookie quarterback. So I'm not going to see a lot of these players that are all inevitably going to go before my next pick. But as of right now, Joe Mixon is as close to a sure thing as I can get. And I don't know what I'm necessarily going to see on my next turn here. Projections are guys like DeAndre Swift, Alexander Mattison, Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers. Dalvin Cook, of course, unsigned right now. I'm going to lock down the first running back here. I'm going to go with Joe Mixon. Hope he falls in the end zone a few times. And remember, I framed this team primarily around its wide receivers. I got that big play, boom potential from A.J. Brown, and I'm going to get that consistent wide receiver 1 production, although it might be low, from Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I, of course, have a top 5 quarterback, at least the sleeper standards. Now I'm going to go ahead and draft Joe Mixon. So let's go ahead and do that. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, go after that. What are your thoughts on Calvin Ridley? Feel free to leave them down in the comments. 4th round value, I've been seeing it everywhere. I really like Christian Kirk still. I think Trevor Lawrence has played extremely well in the back half of last year. I think he's going to take that next step going into 2023. And Christian Kirk is going to be a huge benefactor of Calvin Ridley's presence. But that doesn't necessarily mean I like Calvin Ridley. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. We've come back to me here with my 4th pick. It's the 5-10. Again, my lineup, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Allen, Joe Mixon. Recently, Trevor Lawrence, who we were just talking about, has gone off the board. I don't need a quarterback. DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins were notable running backs. So now I can look here. Jerry Jeudy's there, Christian Watson. Both have question marks. It seems like fantasy football is full of question marks, right? Jerry Jeudy played last year with Russell Wilson. Didn't exactly go as planned. This year there were trade rumors surrounding it this offseason. Christian Watson, of course, touchdown magnet. Now he's not playing with Aaron Rodgers, so we have to envision what that looks like. Kyle Pitts, can you stomach it? Can you stomach Kyle Pitts again in 2023? I certainly am not. Alexander Mattison. I don't know if I'm as high on Alexander Mattison as I am as other people. I just think that ultimately there are probably other options that I'd rather go with. We can continue down here. Michael Pittman, James Conner. After those first 3, everything else has been really questionable. And I get it. I've only made 1 pick, Joe Mixon. But I don't know. James Conner. Running back, going to get a lot of volume on a really bad team. Should put him in RB2 flex range, which is about what I'm looking for right now. Michael Pittman, wide receiver 1 on a team that's probably not going to throw the ball a ton. So now I'm left here with other guys. Marquise Brown, number 1 wide receiver on what will be probably a very bad team. Brandon Ayuk. I don't think I have to take him just yet here. And again, I'm playing the board. Obviously, I'm looking for value. This is where, at least in this perspective, I'm not reaching for a sure thing like David Montgomery. I know he's going to get some goal line touches. I know that he's going to get some carries up there, even with Jahmyr Gibbs in there. But everybody else in front of him, Javonte Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, we don't know their clearly defined roles yet. I'm looking for upside. Jerry Jeudy has shown stretches that he can do it. And again, question marks, just like the 5 other guys below him. But I'm going Jerry Jeudy here in my flex position. Christian Watson goes right after. Dallas Goedert, Michael Pittman, Alexander Mattinson. Now it's back to me. And there's a few things. James Conner is still there. Cam Akers is still there. Do I want a running back in this situation? Well, we can kind of look at what I filled out. I filled out my QB. I filled out my wide receivers, my RB, my tight end, my flex. So in reality, it's kind of depth here or RB at the position. And I can also go tight end. No tight ends I really want yet. Kyle Pitts at the 6'4". Now I'm thinking it's not necessarily the worst case scenario. It's like, can Desmond Ridder, get better in year 2? I don't necessarily think so, but I do like the team. I like what they're doing there. Dalvin Cook, question marks. Cam Akers, question marks. James Conner, Darren Waller, Marquise Brown, Brendan Ayuk for that matter. All question marks at this time. I do want to fill out my roster though. I think that's one of my goals when I draft in general is sometimes I do sacrifice that value to an extent when I know that I can secure that starting lineup and begin to start building depth behind it. Because what good is a team with A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jerry Jeudy? Then I draft, let's say, Brendan Ayuk as a guy that I probably want to target. He now becomes my 4th option on a team where I can't start him. Now, your league may be different, obviously, double flexes, maybe 3 wide receiver leagues. I understand that. But here in this scenario, and this is where, a lot of people play a similar play style, he's just going to be on the bench at that point. So I want to go ahead and shore up my lineup. It's between Cam Akers and James Conner here. What do they always say, right? It's volume over, or I guess I should say it's volume and opportunity over talent. Neither of these guys are extremely talented. James Conner, obviously, with injury issues. Same with Cam Akers. I'm going with James Conner here to lock down my running back room. 2 really stout running backs in Joe Mixon, James Conner. Hopefully they can find those goal line opportunities, maybe 6, 7, 8 touchdowns on the year. That should be serviceable enough for me if they're getting 60 yards a game. I'm not looking for explosive RBs at this point. I'm looking for guys who can be serviceable. The explosion is where I went with in my wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Jerry Jeudy, and then the sure thing in Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now we're coming back. It's the 7-10 string of running backs just went off the board, and I was actually looking for a running back in this next pick. Javonte Williams, James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco, David Montgomery, Alvin Kamara, Rashad White were some of the running backs that have recently gone off the board since my last pick. And now I'm sitting here at the 7-10. Interesting. George Pickens, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Christian Kirk, Treylon Burks, Jordan Addison, Jahan Dotson. So wide receivers who, at my last pick, I was literally thinking about taking Brendan Ayuk, but at that point, he was only going to be depth on a team. Sure, it'd be really nice to have Brendan Ayuk on your team as a depth play. But there are still guys here. More frequently and more importantly, Christian Kirk, who I think is going to sustain what he was able to do last year, if not build on it, do something similar to it. And at this point, with the 7-10 pick, that's an extreme value. I'm not going to pass that up. I'm taking Christian Kirk here, wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jahan Dotson, a guy with a lot of upside, but who knows what his QB play is going to be like. Tua, another quarterback off the board. JSN, Treylon Burks are now off the board, and it falls back to me again. The only position that I have not filled out yet is my tight end position, and I see Pat Freiermuth, Evan Ingram. I have Pat Freiermuth in a lot of dynasty leagues. I don't know if I necessarily need to target him in a redraft league, mainly because even if he hits what he was able to do last year, it's serviceable. And maybe I'm talking myself into it, but I want depth at the running back position now. I really think I want to shore up my running back room here. I see A.J. Dillon. I see Aaron Jones getting a little bit older. I see that offense with Jordan Love. Maybe they're not going to pass the ball a lot. What does that mean? It means more touches for guys like A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. I'm shoring up my running back room here. I'm going with A.J. Dillon with my 7-10 pick. Or I'm sorry, that was my 8-3 pick. Oh, my goodness. So much to talk about. So much to do. A lot of players going off the board. Again, thanks for coming by. If you happen to stop by today, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's see. Tons of players. A lot of rookies. Zach Charbonnet, most recently, the last player to go off the board. Let's see what we got so far. All right, let's look at my roster here. I got Josh Allen, Joe Mixon, James Conner as my running backs, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jerry Jeudy in the flex, Christian Kirk on the bench, A.J. Dillon on the bench. Is it time to pick a tight end? I see Dalton Schultz there. Not a fan. Samaje Perine, Jamal Williams. This is a PPR league, but I'm leaning now where I'm seeing these players who provide a lot of touchdown opportunities, right? A.J. Dillon could be the goal line back. James Conner, Joe Mixon, obviously the workhorses of their teams. The last few workhorses that we've seen over the last couple of years. Jamal Williams is now on the board. He's another guy that could have really strong goal line potential on a team, honestly, with newly acquired quarterback Derek Carr, who, they play in arguably a weak division. I expect a strong year from Derek Carr. I expect a strong year from Olave. Jamal Williams, on the other hand, you're drafting him purely on the chance that he's a flex play who can provide you touchdowns every other week or so, and especially during those bye weeks. I think he can do that. I mean, he had 15, 16, 17 touchdowns last year. I'd love to kind of get that in. You know what? I'm going to figure that out right now. Let's figure out how many touchdowns Jamal Williams had last year. He had 17 touchdowns last year. Not bad. Not bad at all. And what's to say? Can he get 7, 8, 9, 10 touchdowns this year? Now, we obviously know that touchdowns are the hardest thing to predict in fantasy football. They waver and they change dramatically year over year. So with that being said, I don't know. I still kind of like Dalton Schultz, Khalil Herbert. In a PPR scenario, Khalil Herbert, a lot of people are high on him this year. I know that the Bears acquired Deontay Foreman. They also got a rookie running back as well. Rashawn, I think, is his last name. And, as much as I like Khalil Herbert as a passing down back, he does play on a team with a rushing quarterback. And not to mention, it's been quite a while since Khalil Herbert has played an NFL touchdown or has played NFL football, obviously dealing with multiple injuries over the last couple of years. I don't know. He's not on my radar right now. Cortland Sutton, Elijah Moore is another guy that I really like, but don't think I need to take him here. I want to keep solidifying that running back room. I'm going with Jamal Williams at the 101. So he is pick 101 in this draft. Back to me at the turn. I liked Elijah Moore. He went. That was probably going to be my next guy that I was going to think about taking, but here we are. Cortland Sutton, Rashad Bateman, Devin Achane, Odell Beckham, Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams is a guy. I already have him on St. Brown, but 6-game suspension looming. A lot to consider there. Can Cole Kmet, Dalton Kincaid? I don't really like rookie running backs, but right here, don't know how to say the name. Nkonkwo showed some promise last year. If he's there, my next pick at the 11th round, he's someone who I would consider taking at the tight end position. It looks like he's probably not going to make it to me, and I don't feel like necessarily reaching at this moment. So let's go back up here. Cortland Sutton, Rashad Bateman, question marks there. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, both shopped around this offseason. I ended up going with Jerry Jeudy in the 4th round. Dalton Schultz is another player there. Don't like that Houston offense year one with C.J. Stroud, although I think C.J. Stroud can play very well. Let's keep going. Do I go rookie here? Do I just keep loading up on RBs at this point? Because I don't really like any of the wide receivers. Let's kind of look here. Elijah Mitchell, Tyler Algier, supreme handcuff, one of the best handcuffs in 2023. I'm saying it now. Kendry Miller, a lot of guys that I'm willing to take shots on. I just don't think their time is coming yet. Obviously, we're way too early in the draft for that. Sky Moore is another deep sleeper that I like. So let's go back to the draft board. Let's play the value game here. It's looking like Devon Achane. That'd be 3 running backs in a row. I was having a conversation with a buddy earlier where we were talking about Devon Achane, I should say, and another particular running back where it was like, Javonte Williams, I see. And it was kind of like, well, Javonte Williams coming off a very severe, massive injury, new coaching staff. How do they view him? How are they going to utilize him? Whether you also have Devon Achane, where it's like, okay, staff who drafted him, they traded up to draft him. I think he's a gadget player at best, but he could ultimately become a good bye-week fill-in in his rookie season. And again, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, injury-prone guys. Let's take it. Let's dial it in, especially since this is PPR, and I really don't have anything of the sort yet in terms of running back production. None of those guys are really receiving backs except for James Conner. Let's go ahead and get Devon Achane here. I've gone 3 running backs in a row, and it's good. It's good. I don't like anything that's coming after him. Dolchich would have been another tight end that I really would have kept an eye on. He's gone. Okonkwo's gone. Now listen, at this point in the draft, let's look at some of the tight ends here. Tyler Higbee, Sam Laporta, Gerald Everett. Like, I have completely punted the tight end position at this point. I might as well just keep going. There's some extreme value here. I think Devin Singletary, Jonathan Mingo, rookie wide receiver, Sky Moore, another guy. Those would be guys that I wouldn't mind targeting back to back at this point. Like, Sky Moore is going in the 10th, 11th round, so he's slipped a little bit here to the back of the 11th. Jonathan Mingo's another guy that I really like. And again, these are preference plays. Kendry Miller. Now we're getting into these rookies, okay? Kendry Miller is a guy that I like, especially if Kamara misses time. Rasheed Rice, Romeo Doubs, Bryce Young. Don't need quarterbacks. Let's go back up, though. I don't need any of these guys. Not looking forward to it. I'm punting the tight end position at this point. I'm building on that value. I'm building on the depth at this point. And, man, Jonathan Mingo and Sky Moore, if I can get those guys back to back, I'm really happy with that. Let's see what happens. I'm going to go Sky Moore first, then Jonathan Mingo, just because I think here, according to Sleeper, he's actually slipped a little bit. So I like this. Let's go Jonathan Mingo next if he falls. Sky Moore, Darnell Mooney, Tyler Higbee. He is still there. Jonathan Mingo. What do I like about him? Well, we've released a couple of shorts. We have a video on him. Be sure to go look at that on our YouTube channel. I just think that there is a lot of potential. Some guys don't even like Jonathan Mingo. I had a conversation with a guy on Twitter the other day. Jonathan Mingo did nothing his freshman year, nothing his sophomore year, nothing his junior year, and then his senior year he has an okay year, and all of a sudden he's drafted. What did I say earlier in this chat or in this conversation? It's not necessarily always about talent. It's about volume and opportunity. And when you're competing against guys like DJ Chark and Adam Thielen, that time will come sooner rather than later. And I like that upside, and I take those chances. I'd say after around probably after that A.J. Dillon pick, we started taking chances on guys. And I'm taking a chance on Jonathan Mingo as well. And I am in love with this team. I hope you are too. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Of course, if you're listening to this after the fact. And that's it. That's it. We pretty much just drafted it out here. Let's take a look at how this team went out. I didn't even draft the tight end. I'll find one on the waiver wire. It happens that way sometimes, okay? It happens that way. Kind of like guys who draft kickers like after the fact. I drafted a tight end after the fact in this draft. Some of these values were just too hard to pass up. Let's see how it kind of rolls out here. Josh Allen was my QB. I got him in the 3rd round. Loved that pick. Joe Mixon, James Conner. got them in the 4th and 5th rounds, respectively. I think those guys are going to pound it in touchdown-wise. James Conner obviously has a little bit of the pass-catching chops. Bad team, though. Joe Mixon on a great team. Regression last year. Still okay with it. I spent my 1st-round pick on A.J. Brown. 2nd-round pick on Amon-Ra St. Brown, looking for that explosiveness, and then also looking for the stability in those two. Jerry Jeudy was my other guy. He was a question mark wide receiver. And ultimately, in that range of some other guys that were there were a lot of question marks. I ended up going with Jerry Jeudy. Christian Kirk was the guy who I was thinking about taking at that time. Would have been a reach because guess what? I got him with my very next pick. I was super ecstatic about that. A.J. Dillon, Jamal Williams. Looked for that touchdown upside, those bye week fill-in guys. Same thing with Devon A-Chain. Wanted to get a little bit of PPR magic in there, especially for a team that traded up to draft him. Then I took dart throws on Sky Moore and Jonathan Mingo. I was really happy with the way that this team turned out. Again, let me know your thoughts down at the comments. And it's really, really quick today, folks. That's it. It was just a quick mock draft, our thoughts, our strategies. If you saw anything you liked here today, be sure to like and subscribe. If you didn't, come back another time. Give us another chance. And as always, we thank you so, so much. Air high fives. Although we can't be together in person, we are together across the World Wide Web, friends. That's all today, folks. Thank you so much for stopping by. Let me know your thoughts of this team down in the comments. Let me know some of your mock drafts. What are your thoughts on them? Do you love doing a ton of mocks? Do you think they're super beneficial? Do you think they're like, they serve a purpose, but they're not the most important thing like me, like my thoughts are? I just love to hear them. Let me know down in the comments. And as always, thank you so, so much. Hot take of the day. Jacob's not here, so he can't give you one of his lame hot takes. But hot take of the day. Jonathan Mingo could very well be the #1 rookie wide receiver in this year's class. You heard it here first, folks. Have a good one. Peace.